Good afternoon, Delegate Wranglers. We are back again with another masterclass, and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Dominic. How are you, Dom?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I'm really excited about today's show. We've got Richard Bridge from Top Banana on, telling us about some scaling up tips, and I'm really looking forward to this. I've known Richard for a little while now, and I've been pinned him down finally to get him onto the show. So I'm really excited. Yeah,
Good.
really excited.
It's going to be a good show. How's your week been?
Yes, it is. Do you know what? It's only Tuesday, but it's been all right.
Since we were last on.
Oh, okay. That week. It's been good.
Good.
No, it's not been too bad. I've got an exciting time coming up. Going to Manchester tomorrow, London on Thursday, going to Belfast to do some filming in Northern Ireland next week. So yeah, I got an exciting time coming up.
Good.
Can't wait. How about you? Been good for you?
Yeah, it's been a very good week. I have found myself wrapped up in the Wordle word game as well as Nerdle, and it's half an hour of my day at least that I'm now losing to solving word and number problems.
I'm rubbish at it. I must admit, I think I'm good at it, but I'm not.
No, it's driving me mad. And Ed's introduced me to a new one called Quordle, which is 4 ways of solving a word puzzle, and it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that's how my week's been, but work's great.
Exciting! Wow, really exciting time. Living on life on the edge, Dom.
Literally.
So anyway, thank you to everyone for joining us again. We're delighted to have Richard on the show, and I know everybody's tuning in on YouTube and on Facebook and on where else are we? LinkedIn Live.
Live.
Yeah, we're looking. Yes, thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And as always, if we can watch us on social media, isn't that right, Dom?
Yeah, as always, we are live on, as Neil just said, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on his profile on LinkedIn. But as always, you can follow at the Delegate Wranglers on any of their social media channels, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. Like, follow, share, subscribe, do all of those things, and help us and Neil, particularly with his group, spread the great work that the Delegate Wranglers does in and around the event community.
Thank you, Dom. How much do I owe you for saying all those nice things?
I didn't stumble on that for the first time in 4 weeks.
First time ever. So as always, I am pleased to say that we're sponsored by Melia Hotels and Inside by Melia. We got a lovely video of the Grand Melia in Tenerife, which I've actually been to, and it's a very, very nice hotel. So we're just going to run a little video to show you that, guys, how you can make this, use that venue for your groups. How nice is that? I mean, I've actually been there, and it's a gorgeous hotel. I've got to tell you, to be honest, and it's not far from the
I've
airport.
not been, but I quite fancy it. I really need to go start visiting some of these places that we're advertising.
No, yeah, that's it. Is just to make me and you feel jealous. So anyway, guys, just before we move on with the show and introduce Richard, we are, as we're now coming into conference season, with all the trade shows and things like that as well. Confex is literally around the corner. I've just got to, Callum, if you could just show that slide for us. We're just reintroducing our Show Up campaign, guys. Show up for the event industry. And what we've done here is we've listed 3 events that are coming up in the next few weeks, literally. So, guys, if you can, please try and show up for these events. Support the industry. Don't just leave it to someone else to go to these things. And not just this. Anything else that people are putting on. That you get invited to. Try and come along. I know we're all busy, but we're still in recovery mode, and we still got to make things happen. So, try and do that for the industry, guys. But Confex and the London Summer Event Show and CHS, we're going to be at Confex and CHS. I'm speaking at the London Summer Event Show. Diane's going to put some links in the registration for you to register as well. So just click on those links, guys, and try and show up. Simple as that. So you're going to hear me going on about that for the next few months.
It did, but that campaign really worked last year. Really worked last year.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And we got a really cool we got a really cool video as well. We'll try and put a link to that Dom and the team made for us at the meeting show, wasn't it, Dom? Where we kind of interviewed people and asked them to show up.
Yeah, we did 2 of them. Yeah, I remember.
2 videos, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so we'll try and put the link to those as well in the chat. So
Definitely.
Anyway,
yes.
Without any further ado, I would like to introduce Richard Bridge from Top Banana. Richard, how are you?
I'm good, thanks guys. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on this show.
Pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, no, absolutely delighted to get you on. I know I keep saying to you every time I see you, got to get you on the show, and then I pick Richard's brains about, okay, so how did you do this, and what do you do that, what do you think I should do, and so get him on the show, and I can pin him, tell 2 birds in one stone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Richard, I know you're obviously one of the founders, I guess, of Top Banana, and you've grown that company to to what it is today. Everybody knows it, and your place in the industry. Do you want to tell us a bit about your journey and what you guys are up to at the moment?
Sure, yeah. So just to put a bit of context on Top Banana in terms of, for those who don't know, because although hopefully most people have heard of Top Banana, but more recently I've been with Top Banana was acquired by TBA Group, which is in essence a specialist group of event businesses. And now I sort of represent sort of a managing director of the brands division of TBA Group, which is a real privilege and great to start working with other agencies within that group as well. But probably more famously known, as you know me, Neil, from being a founder and one of the founders and CEO of Top Banana, which was set up something like 23 years ago, which is I started it when I was at school. And now I think we've had a tremendous journey along that time. Now we class ourselves as not just an events agency, but we're a creative communications agency. About 60 plus people working at Top Banana specifically, and about 90 or so in the group. But growing fast, we're still recruiting. So if anybody's looking for a job in events, we have plenty of recruitment opportunities within the group. And specifically as well within the Top Banana business. But in essence, Top Banana now is very much known for its live events. Primarily, it's virtual and hybrid events. We've been doing a huge amount of that over the pandemic. Film business, which is where my story started in film. I'll come on to that in a bit. But we do a lot of films for clients, the design and creative side, the strategic side, but also doing venues and incentives as well. A lot of that across lots of different sectors for clients. In automotive, luxury, financial, retail, and pretty much every sector that's going out there. So hopefully that gives a bit of context in terms of what we're about at Top E.
Not too shabby, Richard. So obviously this show is about it's all about scaling up, and how you grow your business and grow whatever your business is. Obviously, take us back to when you started, 23 years ago. Did you know it was? Did you have a feeling of what you wanted to do, or were you just kind of scratching an itch at the time, and then it's just developed organically? Or was it a plan? How take us back to the beginning.
Cool. I think the key thing, I think, in any business is why do you do what you do, and it's all about having a passion and an aim and an ambition of what you want to try and achieve. I think going back to my early days in the industry, go back to 1989, where I was basically leaving college, and I was in a band, wanted to be famous, wasn't going to make it. Unfortunately, I wasn't that good, but I did have a passion for live and events, and I went to college to study audio visual at the time because I'm a bit of a technical geek, and basically found a love for filmmaking, and then that in essence got me a job at a little known company called DRP, who are now called DRPG, and which was a brilliant foundation for me to start my career. So I worked there for over 7 years. I started as a production assistant, and then pretty much it was to me, Dale, and his mom that were working there. And then I escalated through their business we expanded quite well, which also I think teaches you the how to get to know how business operates, because you're in sort of everything with a smaller company, whereas sometimes when you join a bigger company, you don't get the full immersion into what's going on. Then I went to work for a different company called JTA, who were more of a consultancy basis, because obviously DRP very much operational. They do everything, which was phenomenal and brilliant. But JTA were very much more advisory, consultative. So it gave me sort of both sides of the coin, really. And then I met a guy at that company called Nick Terry, who basically said, "Rich, I reckon we could probably do something together, and I reckon we could make it happen." And I was like, "But Nick, I've just had a baby. I've just bought a house. I'm not going to risk all of this, company car, job, etc." And I'd never had a car. I've never paid for my own car before. So it was, and I have to say, I have a lot to thank Nick for in that respect, because he basically said, "Look, mate," he said, "I'll guarantee your salary for 3 months." He said, "But jump ship, and I reckon we can do something." And if I'm honest, that's it. We never really had to guarantee it, because as soon as we jump ship, you start with something, you actually you just make a go of it. And I'm about working hard. I'm about passion. I'm about positivity, and pretty much we just went from strength to strength. But it did start with a vision. I think Nick and I both sat down together in his kitchen. We were working out of a garage, just the two of us, out of his garage, and I think we both sort of identified, I suppose, each of our roles, because obviously when you're a duo, it's just making sure that you're clear about who's doing what. So I went off and freelanced for a lot as an editor, made a load of pop promos, TV commercials and things as a filmmaker. And Nick focused on sort of trying to drum up some clients and get sort of day-to-day stuff. So, and that was really, really good, because all of a sudden it widened both of our networks of people we knew. And I think that's a big part of scaling any business, from when you start with it from a conception perspective, is that you don't know anybody. You've got limited knowledge of clients. Clients know you. And then it's how do you then grow that? And by widening your network, I always say there's no such thing as a bad conversation, because as soon as you start talking to somebody, it might not be the next day, it might not be the next week, but hopefully if you've had an impact on that person, then eventually something comes around and they'll go, "Oh, I know a person who does that," and then you do a good job and they come back for more. That's it.
So the basis of your growth back then was picking up on that, was your network.
Yeah, I think don't get me wrong. I think if you look back into Top Banana's history, nobody had ever heard of Top Banana probably 10 years ago. And that was probably because we just focused on what we were wanting to do, what we were good at, what we were doing. And that's okay. But we made a decision about 10 years ago. If I'm honest, some of it was about our vision was to sell the business as a duo. That never materialised in the way we wanted it. But at the same time, we went out and we said, okay, well, if we want to sell the business, people need to know about us and we went out and made a plan to how do we become more well known? How do we be more visible in the industry? Because chances are that somebody in the industry would buy us, and in the end, that's in essence what happened. I think the piece about how do you grow clients, I think it's all about if you deliver a good job and you're nice to people, and people enjoy that working experience. 100% people come back time and time again. So it's not by accident. And I think when I look back to some of the early days when I was an editor and editing in an edit suite, then I managed to edit some videos for Johnny Walker. And then the guy was like, oh, these videos are amazing. And they were working with an agency at the time. And the agency said to me, oh, you've done events, haven't you? Would you mind project managing this roadshow that we're doing? And got me to work on stuff. And then it was like, oh, I went and did something in Thailand, in Bangkok. And then it was like, oh, that was really good. Can you go and do something in Miami? Or can you go and do... And then all of a sudden, one brand was lent to another brand. And then the next thing you know, we're knocking on Gucci's door and saying, we work with these big companies like Diageo. Do you want to work with us? And they go, oh, okay, yeah. And then all of a sudden, so if you deliver great work and be memorable and be nice to work with, then theoretically people come back time and time again.
Yeah. Do you know what? I couldn't agree more. I think it's all about being amazingly nice to work with and good to work with, thinking ahead of people and, cultivating all those relationships, as well as doing it. I always say this, every event manager should be able to event manage a job. It's a little bit of finesse that you can add on and a little bit of personality and a little bit of comfort zone that you can make your clients feel so that you can concentrate on your job while they do theirs.
We call it the top and iron special sauce. It's the magic that you add to the experience that sometimes people don't get anywhere else, and it's really difficult to sell, if I'm honest. We were talking this morning to one of our senior account managers around how do we help people understand the value of Top Banana, because once you've had the Top Banana experience, often you don't go anywhere because you don't want that to happen. But sometimes it's really hard because people go, well, you're providing the same services, the same. You're not in a way, but at the same time, it's what makes us special versus the next agency, because the venues tend to be the same, the equipment tends to be the same. It's what you do as people is the bit that's different.
Yeah.
So, Richard, I'm going to go back to right back to the beginning when you were in you and Nick's garage.
In the garage,
and you were working away, and you probably, this is probably applicable to Dom, to me, to so many people. We all started like this on a kitchen table or in your spare room or in the loft. Thought, oh, why don't I, like I did it with the Delegate Wranglers, I'll set up this group and do this. And you really just start it from a really small. Any tips for like how you you have to come across to when you go into big firms that you are a big firm, that you're not just in your garage. Any tips on how to get across that? Because all of us will have been at that stage at some point.
Yeah, I think there's several bits to it in terms of. I think one of the things Nick and I did really well was we set a plan and a vision for the business, and if I'm honest, we worked with a business psychologist going back 20 odd years ago to try and imagine ourselves in the future. And I recommend this to anybody to do, because there's a phrase, isn't it, that is that mental reality precedes physical reality. So if you imagine something, the chances are that it will probably happen because you've imagined it and you've put yourself in the future. And Sarah, who we worked with, literally got you to stand in the future and you would describe it to her and she'd write it all down. Now, it's a weird one because often when we looked at the vision that we did, and we Nick and I set a 10-year vision for the business, and I have to say we achieved everything on that, but we described it to we would be working out of a barn conversion in the Midlands, not too far from home. We would be doing this, we'd be doing that, we'd be doing events, we'd be doing film. And if I'm honest, everything came through. And the weird thing is when you get to the end of that 10-year journey and you go, okay, yeah, we've achieved it. And it's not that you get it out every day, because you don't. When you set a vision, it's not something that you look at every day, but it is sort of almost a guiding light. So that's a big part of it. There's a piece that I always talk about when you're going into bigger clients. You got to stand, and it's slightly, because for those who know me, I'm slightly vertically challenged. So you have to stand taller than you really are. And you have to go in there with a why wouldn't you win this? So there's an element of bravado and confidence that you have about you that exudes that stature. I deserve to be here. I remember going back to when we first met the president of communications for Gucci group at the time in London, and we got invited in, and it was the scariest meeting in the world, because I was like walking in for this, what was a 15 people operation based out in the middle of nowhere, going into this behemoth of a company, and just talking about the stuff we do. And she liked the personalities of us and gave us the opportunity to pitch for it. And to be honest, we pitched for it, and that they wanted to sign when we were in the pitch, because we did so much more than any other agency that had pitched to them. We even took them. We said, we don't want to pitch in your office. We want to take you to a space where we can control and help you feel what the delegate will feel, rather than me coming into a brown meeting room, not necessarily knowing what the technology was going to be like. So we took them to a venue. The unfortunate thing, the venue we took them to was like 40 minutes away from their offices. She arrived, and there was about 4 of them, and you can imagine the fashionistas amongst them. So she arrived, and she was like, Richard, this better be worth it. I've just spent 40 minutes in the car. And I said, well, that's how your delegates will feel once they've transferred from the airport. And that very quick thinking, she was like, nice answer. Yeah. She's like an excuse for everything. So I think it's you've got to stand tall, and it is about setting your vision and imagining it and writing it down. I also think there's a piece from a personal perspective about setting goals as well for everybody's individual. So and I do this to myself. I still do. So there are 3 types of goals that I look at, and I would advise anybody to do this. There's business goals that you'd set around your career, what you want to achieve, where you want to grow yourself into, etc. There are what I call family goals. I'm a father of 3, 2 lads who are great, and I've got a daughter out in career who's also great as well. But they both need, all 3 of them need different needs and stuff. But so you've got to have family goals in terms of what you're doing with the family, and making sure you prioritize certain things for them. And then I also have personal goals, which are about me, about my development, around stuff I want to do. Because I think as much as I am a father, I'm also an individual as well. So I wouldn't be the person I was if I didn't do stuff for myself. And there's an element of selfishness to that, I get. But at the same time, as provided you've got family goals and you've got business goals, it makes you who you are and what you do. So there's sort of 3 goals, and they could be weird things. Like I had one around learning a language, or learning to fly is one of my ones for this the next sort of couple of years, or having a property portfolio, or I pick up my kids from school 2 nights a week, and making sure I'm there for them, or doing stuff with my Ed, who's a footballer, so I go to football with him on a regular basis, and do stuff with Charlie. He likes sailing. So all of these things are around making sure I'm monitoring whether I'm achieving those goals. And to be fair, it helps you make progress on a regular basis. And so I think there's about setting a vision for the business, and that's more of a direction for the company, but and what you want to exist for. And then it's about what does that mean for you as an individual, and what are the goals around you as an individual from business, family, and individual perspective.
Going back to what you said just now, Richard, it's really interesting. I worked with a mentor a couple of years ago who took me through exactly that same exercise that you just described, which is looking at not talking about where you want to be, but placing yourself at that point and saying, this is where I am. And we went through this process of documenting everything, and it was everything to do with earnings. It was the personal and professional goal setting that you just said, what you've achieved from those, and it was fascinating. And at some point later this year or early next year, I'm going to open that envelope that we wrote about 3.5 years ago now, and just see where I am in comparison.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird though, because when I know, for Nick and I, when we got to our end of our 10 years, and I think it was in a recession, and one of the ambitions in the 10 years was to sell. And then we're like, okay, you get there and you go, okay, so who wants to buy us? And then you go, okay, well, nobody at the moment, because we're in a recession. And then you sort of go, but what's next? And it was really hard in a way, because you've just gone through this process and got to the end of that journey.
Yeah.
And then we had to then step back into it. And now it's a bit easier because I've been through that process. But and now I do it sort of almost on every 6 months. I sort of dig it out.
Yeah.
What have I done? What am I doing? What's next?
I love that, Richard. I've written them down. I'm going to have a look at attacking those 3 sets of goals. But I've got a question though. Just going back to your Gucci meeting.
Yeah.
What would have stressed me out is what to wear.
Yeah.
Oh my God! How paranoid did you feel? I would have been terrified.
For all of the meetings I had at their offices, it was very much a shit. What am I going to wear every day?
Black suit, black shirt, black tie.
Keep it going. I think the brilliant thing is that we built up such a great relationship, and we still work with them now. But we built up such a great relationship with them that it became less about that. It was more about just getting together with friends in the end, which is a real fantastic place to be. And even I rocked up in some sort of River Island gear, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's a nice jacket, Richard. Where'd you get that from?" But I did manage to get a few items of clothing, should we say, along the way. Because when you're working with them and you're delivering an event, and I'm stood there with,
I need to look the part.
Yeah, you got it exactly. You need me to look the part. Yeah. So yeah. But I think one of the interesting things about the Gucci relationship, for me personally, because at those days it was a smaller business. I was very much hands-on. I was delivering events. I was the project director, event director, account director, and everything around those things. Obviously, a team behind us, but is they gave us permission, and the budgets are not what they used to be. I think in the world, I don't think anybody would give us this brief now, but they used to say, well, we want it to be money can't buy experience, very memorable, take us to learn things we didn't even know we needed. And we talked about augmented reality and virtual reality over 12 years ago. And we were doing stuff in that because that's what we talked about sustainability about 8 or 9 years ago, before it was a major thing within the industry. So it was always about the future, and they were so ahead of themselves in many ways. It was brilliant projects to work on. Obviously, the pandemic's put a stop to some of those for the short term, but no doubt we'll be back.
It sounds amazing, Rich. So obviously, the next part of the journey I want to know about is obviously you went from, you and Nick, working in the garage, getting big clients. Then I'm sensing that you're having to scale up, in terms of your staff and building a team. And, and I know Dom's kind of building his team at the moment, and we are at the Delegate Wranglers, we're building ours. But it's a scary process to go through,
Yeah, it is. And I think the key piece is about bringing people in. And I always remember going back to the first employee that we employed, a graphic designer. And he's, to be fair, he's still with us today, which is brilliant. He's one of our art directors. And he joined, and it was like this kid from college and and it was a massive step, but that was a skill we didn't have inside our business. So there are two types of how you scale up: is what are you paying for on a freelance basis or a regular basis that you can go, oh, let's bring that skill in house to have it as a basis that's not a skill you have, and then there's a handing over the reins, shall we say, which is probably the more tricky one, where you've got to go, okay, well, so for example, if I was event director, account director, production director on a project, then all of a sudden I've got to then give that responsibility to somebody. And I know now with the time, because we're all control freaks in the events industry. So it is around making sure you're controlling stuff. But when you look at how do you let go, it's a scary old place, because that person's not going to do it as you did it or how you would do it. But it is about managing. I call it picking the battles you want to fight. And because you've got to allow people to be themselves, and often the chances are they'll probably do a brilliant job and
do it better than you.
Do you know what, Richard? Richard, you were introduced before we came on air to Callum, who's sitting behind pushing all the buttons on this. Callum is less than half my age and twice as good as I am at what he does. But when I first handed over to him, when he first started coming in and we were working together, that process of, for me, that process of handing over to him and saying, okay, you're going to push the buttons now, that's up to you. You were talking just now about doing virtual reality and augmented reality years ago. I've been talking about recently, we were doing hybrid and virtual events before they were cool. But that was reliant on me pushing the buttons, and then handing that over to Callum and letting that baby go was really difficult. But now there is no way he would hand them back to me.
Quite. And I think it's all about, one of the brilliant phrases I talk about all the time is every day is a school day. Because as now I learn, I'm still learning, and I will never stop learning. Because every day you sort of put into a situation, you go, oh, I didn't realise that, or seeing skills or the strengths of people. I'm a massive.
You know what, Richard? Richard, I think as you get older, you actually want to learn more. You're kind of a bit headstrong when you're younger. You think, I know what I'm doing.
I know everything.
Help. As you get older, you kind of think, well, I'm going to open up my brain to learn new things. It's really strange. Well, or maybe it's just me. That's what happens.
You're getting old now. I think
I am old.
Like me. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that there is an element of, I think there's letting go with a safety net. So at least letting go with people and working with them, because I think you've got to grow people, and the Top Banana have a Top Banana Academy where we try and grow talent from the sort of apprenticeships right through. We now introduced that into groups, so it's the TBA Group Academy. So we will grow talent from production execs, so they learn the ways that we do it, how to add the special sauces, because it is the special touches that you can try and do for a client that makes it memorable and makes it different from, because like we say, the venues are the same, the equipment's the same often. It's only the creativity that's different, and the relationship that we have with those customers. So, and you've got to find those amazing people. And I've been privileged to work with some amazing people over my time, and we've got a great team here. But there is that, I've just handed the reins to Top Banana over to Gemma, who's our MD, who was MD about this time last year. Actually, she was made MD, and you go, okay, and that's a real behaviour I've got to learn to say, okay, Gemma's the MD now, so. Any decision making,
you're going to her.
I'm like, Jem, I've just seen this. I'm just thinking, what do you reckon on? And you sort of learn a new language of how to have conversations. But it is letting go, and client relationships are really hard, because the client, I remember when I used to run the Bacardi account, they just come to me constantly, and then you introduce somebody else. It was up to them to build the trust with that client, and then all of a sudden they became trusted by Bacardi to go directly, not to me. So then you go, okay, they still know who I am. And I think that's really important, that you've got multi-level relationships within a customer. But they know that actually I don't do any work. I talk on these things for most of the time.
I think that's a really hard balance, though. I had this years ago. I had a sales and marketing consultancy in the healthcare sector years and years ago. And I think the mistake that I recognised that we made then was myself and my then business partner made that business about us individually instead of the name of the company. So we were trying to do this personalized service thing, but actually that makes it almost impossible to grow it effectively, because everyone, whenever it comes to delivery of that project, it's about you going to deliver that project. And that's been the difference with Stream as I've done it this time. It's very much about me, and I'm the face, and I'll be the guy that puts himself on camera, and I'll be in the videos. But actually it's so much more about the team and the business than it is about me. But it's a really hard balance when you're the only guy delivering the work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think as we've sort of grown Top Banana, because obviously everything was funneled through me and Nick, and we used to have our own clients that we used to look after. Then all of a sudden we then built those teams a bit bigger as the work was coming in, and then I became creative director for a little bit, and then commercial director for a little bit, just to play the roles that the business needed it to be. But it is really hard letting go, but and trusting those relationships with others that in essence do come and go because they don't own the business. It's about their careers as such. So,
And I've always said, Richard, as well, an event manager, part of an event manager is delivering amazing events that go perfectly. But when you really get to shine is when something goes wrong and you have to step in. And I think that's often what it takes for that new person to fully get the trust of a client when they've firefighted and delivered something that they then get the trust back. So I've got a question for you, Richard. So when you were growing and you were growing your team and you were growing your business, did you work to a certain plan?
Boat, and where you're going to in destination, but you might have to tack left and right to get there over the distance. So I think it's important to stay agile with any form of decision making, growing the business, because you don't know what's around the corner. Every year when we start the target setting within the business into what do we think this year we're going to deliver, how much growth we're going to see, we ask the team to come back with a set of numbers, and or previously I've done it myself, and you're putting your finger in the air because you don't quite know how much predictability you're going to get. The events industry can be predictable because you do get yearly events that happen, which is brilliant. But there is an awful lot of unpredictability as well, and you can't plan for that. You don't know that a new client's going to come knocking on your door. So how do you resource for something you don't know about? And so that's always the challenge where we see peaks and troughs within that. And I think it's a challenge of our industry is often certainly smaller agencies, and we Top and Arnold suffered in the early days, if you'd have one massive event that would be a massive spike one month and then you'd have nothing the next. And if in many ways I used to get depressed, if you like, from when you're coming off an event, because you'd come off living with a family and doing an amazing event and working with them for like the past 3 months to deliver this amazing project, and then the day after it's finished, all of a sudden you're disconnected from that whole family of team members that you'd worked with, and it is quite depressing. So I always used to have to make sure that I had another event that I was going to step into, or another project that I was stepping into, to kick me into that sort of storming phase to go again. But it is, I think, that to answer the question around the vision setting piece around, and also letting go, is you've got to have a plan. If your plan is, and I appreciate there could be on this call loads of people that are startups, loads of experienced businesses and different sizes of businesses, but part of the plan when we were smaller was, yes, we wanted to sell, we wanted to release the equity of the business eventually. But part of that plan is making sure that the business wasn't so reliant on me or Nick or indeed the senior team, because somebody would buy me, as TBA have done. And the brilliant thing about TBA's deal we've just done is that I'm still a shareholder, a significant shareholder, and I'm still, nothing's changed in terms of my management ownership. I've got Gemma, who's the MD, which is great, but that allows me to have freedom to help support the other businesses and make sure that we have a coordinated business. So, sometimes when you sell a business, you exit. And don't get me wrong, I'm 51 years of age, so I'm in the business and I'm hugely passionate, a bit of a workaholic. But at the same time, my plan would always be to exit at some point, because I want to retire, go and grow chickens or do something or learn to fly. That was one of my ambitions. So not that I'm going to, I'll probably crash a plane, but anyway, that's in the future.
It's that positive thinking you've developed over the years there, right?
Exactly. But
Dom,
making it a plan.
We've got a couple of questions in the chat I've just seen, Dom.
Yeah, there was one that I was going to bring up from Craig, but I was going to do it later, but I'm going to do it now, just in case you don't want to answer it, but come back to it, which is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, that's a great question.
Great question.
I think I'd make decisions quicker in some situations. I think, and I've learned to do it now, and to be honest, it's one of our leadership team mantras now, is if something's not right, we decide on it and we react and we make the decision quicker. I think in the early days, when you're certainly when you can start to see, and the pandemic was an interesting process to go through, when we had to make redundancies and we had to lose some people, just in terms of trying to protect the future of the business and also majority of the people. I think sometimes we're not decisive enough, and I think that will be one of my tips or hints, because often, particularly when it comes to people, I'm a massive people person, and yes, I've had to let people go, I've had to fire people, but the way I look at it is, providing I can sleep at night knowing that I've done everything to support somebody, because sometimes we put people in roles, but it's not necessarily always playing to their strengths.
Yeah.
And I think if you put somebody doing something that they're not strong at, then they're always going to fail, and they're never going to do it the way you're going to do it. So don't focus them on doing that. Focus on what they're really good at. And I think that will help them grow as an individual. They'll feel like they're succeeding rather than feeling like they're failing all the time. And there has been times over the 23 years where I've gone, actually, we've been talking about this for a while. We should have made a decision on that a while ago. And let's move on, rather than having it be a stone in the shoe and taking up hours of management meeting time.
There's a level of bravery in making that decision quickly, though, in some of those decisions.
Yeah, there is, and I think it's making it balanced as well, because just because my perception or view is one thing, it's not necessarily the reality. And sometimes you've got to admit that you're never always right. Yeah, most of the time I'm pretty right, but because you have to listen. You have to listen to the guys around you, your management team that surround you, to get their voice and get their insight into what they think, because I only see what I see. I only know what I know. So I don't see what I don't see, and I don't know what I don't know. So they have a different perspective on stuff, and I think that's really important to make sure that whenever we are making a decision, we're making it as a team, but we're also doing it from a 360-degree view on it. And we have stuff in Top Banana where we have a Feedback Friday where we ask the audience, ask the team members how their week was, what do they think, what would they want to change, how can we make ourselves better, and we have a KPI that we measure the business on from a cultural standpoint. And it goes up, it goes down. People had a busy week, or they've had something's pissed them off or whatever. Then, but it helps us monitor it on a weekly basis and do something about it. And it's completely voluntary. People don't have to fill it in if they don't want to. But but it does help you get a bit of a check on what you're going to do, and then you can make decisions accordingly. So.
That's one of my mantras as well, Richard. I like to sleep at night. I like to, operate, do everything within my power to make life good for people around me and what I'm doing, and do a good job of everything. Then you can sleep like a baby when you go to bed.
And I think in reality, when things have not worked out for people, often, I remember having to let somebody go quite some years ago now, but I remember having a conversation with him and saying, Top Banana's just not right for you. You'll go and be brilliant somewhere else. Because you'll be brilliant, being brilliant, your brilliant self. So why stay in a role where you go, actually, it's just not right for me? So how do you help people find their happy place, if you like? Top Banana's not.
It's not always about, and the thing is, it's not always about just solving that with money or job titles, or it's just the culture, the vibe. It could be whatever. It could be happiness. That's what I always deal in now these days. Happiness. Just feeling happy and content in what I'm doing. Well, most of the time. Diane will tell you different. But so tell us, Richard, as well. I know we've got about 10 minutes left. What about when things don't go to plan? What about when things don't go to plan? Obviously there's some tricky times. Obviously we've had COVID, and you would have had to. I know you've talked there about some letting people go and making some tough decisions. You have to just kind of roll with that and kind of retain your positivity and keep your perspective, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's important. Stuff doesn't always go to plan, and you can't predict the unpredictable. It's just about how you deal with it, really. And it's we have regular catch-ups, LT catch-up on a weekly basis. We call it Camel because it's on a Wednesday, it's Hump Day. So we have a Camel catch-up where we just talk about, okay, what's not happening? What are the sticking points? It's about how you respond to it, really, and being flexible about your approach, being agile on a regular basis. That you don't let it beat yourself up. You just got to be honest. And I remember standing in front of the 60-odd people that we had at Top Banana when the pandemic first hit, and I had to announce that we were going to be making some redundancies. And I basically said to the guys, I said, look, this is out of our control. This is how much money we got in the bank. This will keep us going for this amount of time. So anything anybody can do to help contribute to saving some money to making that happen, is much appreciated, because the leadership team can go so far, but it needs everybody to play their part. And the guys, when I said at that time, I said we will be asking for volunteers for redundancy. We know it's not right for everybody. We know you've all got livelihoods, and we will make as little redundancies as possible. And that's the way we sort of approached it, because I think if you're honest with people, I think they appreciate it. You set the context of it, because as I keep saying to people in staff meetings, I've never run a company as big, and I've never run a company with this many people, with this amount of money turnover, this amount of clients. So in many ways, I'm making it up as I go along, but you just got to trust me to make the right decisions, because we're all learning every day, and as we grow and develop, and even in my role now as MD of the brands division for TBA Group, it is it's a constant learning, because you're dealing with different types of clients, different industries, and stuff as well. So you just got to be honest and true to yourself around what you're good at and what you're not good at, and get the people to do the stuff you're not good at. Because I'm not very good. I'm not good at doing timesheets. I've got a calf for timesheets.
God, timesheets, yeah. Remember them. I was just going to say, just to wrap up, Richard, obviously, Top Banana, from when you were first, developing and growing to where you are now, there's obviously a lot of, I guess, marketing in that as well. Growing your brand, growing the visibility. And I know there's a certain amount of organic growth, and people get to know you by reputation, but you do have to work hard to. This is why Nike and Adidas spend money advertising. You've got to keep shouting about it. Any tips on how to do that? Because especially nowadays, there's more routes to be able to do it now with social media, isn't there?
And I think you're a case in point into that, Neil, in terms of what you've achieved through your social activations. And I think the key piece, and going back 10 years ago when Nick and I said, okay, what do we want to do? We want Top Banana to be better known in the industry. So we did lots of stuff. It was about, everything has a reason why we do it. Everything has a purpose of what we're about. Yeah. So it was basically making sure that we're visible, because you can have the best product in the world, but if you can't be visible and people can't find you, then you're your biggest nothing, in a sense. Yeah. So you've got to be visible. You've got to be out there. You've got to network with the industry. It's I enjoy networking, and I enjoy meeting new people, because I always get something out of it in terms of inquisitive. So I spent a lot of time in the early days just getting to know people, going to know what was going on, trying to look at potential suitors, because we were looking obviously from a sale perspective who was going to buy us. Interestingly, I'd never met Guy before he picked up the phone and said, "Oh, I've heard you're really good. Can we have a chat?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And so you have got to be out there. You've got to be marketing, have an opinion. You've got to make sure you're visible. And it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have a really expensive marketing department. It costs nothing to post on social media. You just got to be knowing what's going on, having an opinion, and just being out there visible constantly. Now we have a marketing team who obviously post stuff. I also think there's a bit about knowing what the future is going to be, because I think what we've done really well at Top Banana is, in some cases, we've probably led the industry in terms of led our opinions on stuff, and then the industry or the market follows it. And I think that's been, don't just follow what your competitors are doing, try and be first about what your opinion is, what you want to get out of it. And I think that's really a big part of it. And I think the pandemic was proof in point. We said we can't sell a product to customers because we don't have one, because live is over. What we need to do is try and find, how do we look after our clients? How do we know everybody's going through the same? So we did lots of social activations through marketing around, just gather the industry together. And that worked well for us, because when we did come out and have a product like the virtual and hybrid side, then all of a sudden people wanted to buy that, and we were very visible about it. And all of a sudden we had a product that people wanted to buy that wasn't necessarily available or commonly available in the market at that time.
Could I ask as well, Richard, just on that? Is do you guys, obviously you do, I know the answer to this, but I'm asking for a friend. Asking for me. Brand strategy, looking at what you're trying to say as a brand, it's really important, isn't it? You can't just literally, and there's a certain amount of off the cuffness with Insta stories and behind the scenes and things like that are cool. but you really should have a strategy in place about what you're doing and what you're trying to say as a company and what vibes you're trying to give off. Isn't that right?
So yeah, 100%. And I think we have what we class as an agency brand strategy in terms of how we go out there and talk about how do we recruit clients. But we also have an employer brand strategy around how do we recruit people, because at the end of the day, and recruiters are fantastic, but we'd rather people come to and want to work for Top Banana. Because and therefore, how can we talk about the people within Top Banana, what we stand for as an organisation? Because I think having the purpose of why you exist, one helps. I think an employee coming into Top Banana go, I want to be part of that organisation where you have an amazing culture, you talk about sustainability, you look after the environment, you look after the people that work for you, you have a laugh, you do some amazing work. Yeah. So all of those things that attract great people, but at the same time, that's also in some cases what clients want to be associated with. And often we'll try and brand match our clients to us as well. So we have obviously a brand strategy around our tone of voice, what we look like, how we would how you would hear us talk about things. So part of our training that we have with new employees, our induction process, talks about if you wanted to. So we don't have KPIs within the Top Banana, we have high fives. So it's just about, so if Top Banana were going to be something, how would you say it? Because that personality is in essence what is Top Banana, and it's what clients buy into, and it's what employees buy into. But it's not done by accident. It's very much down to, that's what I'm very much passionate about, because we've got to have differentiation in the marketplace, and we've got to make sure that we stand out. And I suppose having a name like Top Banana does help that. But at the same time, sometimes that can come across as frivolous and a bit cheeky and a bit jokey, and therefore people don't take you seriously. But then you go, okay, well, we work with these types of clients, and people go, wow, therefore you must be good at what you do. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Dom, just see, we just had a question from Alexandra in the chat that we could get to, Richard, before we finish.
If you've got it there, do it. No, because I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah. Let me jump back. You do it.
I'll do it. Okay. So hi, Alexandra, by the way. Alexandra Sohn, what are your top tips on delegating? And as a perfectionist, I struggle with this.
Yeah. And it comes back to it's coming back to letting go. I think there's setting clear boundaries around what you're giving and what you want to be done. Ask them to play that back to make sure that you're following it. And it's trial because people won't do it the way you want it done. And I think there's a piece about, is it okay? Because sometimes, and it's when you're dealing with your jewel in the crown of your brand and your thing you've built so much, it is very much letting go of that. But sometimes you've got to, there's some stuff I see, I go, yeah, I wouldn't have done it that way. But is it going to be a decision whether somebody chooses Top Banana or not chooses Top Banana? Probably not. So it's about picking your battles and making sure that the safety net you put under the delegation, because at the end of the day, you've just got to build that written trust. And it's helping them understand that, hey, I'm a control freak. So just so you know, when we're going through this process, I'm just going to be checking in with you regularly, because it's not that I don't trust you. It's just that it's going to give me peace of mind. It's going to help me sleep at night knowing that you've got it covered.
And then I guess eventually you can relinquish it, can't you? Once you've kept checking
exactly.
for the first 3 or 4 times you've done something, and then
and the interesting thing is, and it's a classic one where you get copied into an email with a customer, and then you just go, are they going to reply? And you sat there waiting for the reply to come in. Are they going to reply? Do I need to reply? So again, it's sort of setting those boundaries around, just so you know, I'm sat here waiting. So we need can you reply within the first hour if you've got an email, or whatever the guidelines or boundaries? Set the guidelines that you want it to be working, because your natural reaction would be just to instantly reply, but that might work for the person, because you don't know where they are, what they're doing, etc. So so set the boundaries.
A little top tip for anyone out there who's working with Top Banana: copy Richard in, and you'll get a really quick answer.
Exactly.
Diane's going to put his email address in the comments in just a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a cat for that.
Well, Richard, we're just about coming up to time, but that's been super, super useful. I mean, I could talk to you all afternoon and pick your brain.
Yeah, so you know what? There's a couple of comments in there. I think there's a number of people saying exactly the same thing. We'd love to continue this conversation.
Yeah, and especially if there's a
Love to
beer
get you back
involved,
on.
I'm more than happily. I'm more sociable in a bar.
We'll do it. You know what? Me and Dom keep threatening to do one of these in person. I mean, we did one at Confex last year.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as we
more of an
talked about,
intimate
but we
one.
should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'll
We'll
see
do
you at
one of these
Confex.
in
I'm
person
down.
too.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm down at Confex this year,
Well,
so I'll
Richard,
see you there.
thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed it. Been super, super useful, and this will definitely be shared amongst people. I am very sure of it. So, thank you very much once again.
Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate it.
Good to meet you both.
And you.
Cool. Thanks a lot. So, Dom, wow. My head is like, I've written down so many things on my sheet here.
There's some great comments coming in. I know Craig's watching. He's actually back from his travels for about 8 minutes. So I know he's up there in Glasgow watching, and he's taken a load from that. So, but he's one of a number of people. There's a couple of people on LinkedIn have made a few comments as well. So yeah, it's been a great session.
Absolutely fantastic. So anyway, there we are for another week, Dom. Thank you once again everyone for showing up, you guys for watching and tuning in. Please spread the word about the Delegate Wranglers, DW live shows. You know, we do these for you. They're super useful. If you want to come on the show, drop me a line. If you've got a masterclass that you would like to share with people, you know, we're always looking for new material. I think we've got 3 left after this one of this season. And then we'll be taking a break for about a month or so, 6 weeks, and then we'll be back with another 8 weeks again. So me and Dom absolutely love doing. Well, I speak for myself, but we absolutely love doing them. So we do them for you. So you know, keep them coming, keep watching, keep telling everybody about them.
Absolutely.
So Dom,
yes.
Next week, if we could show the slide for
what's next week.
It's Sasha.
Oh, Sasha's back. This is a third time out for Sasha.
Yes, we got Sasha back, and this is a really super useful one as well. Back to live. So, you know, what have we learned about the last 2 years? You know, are we going to change the way we do live events? I'm sure we are. You know, particularly for, you know, diversity, sustainability, all things like this. So registration's open for that, guys. I'm going to put the link in the chat afterwards. So please, once again, start registering. For registering, by the way, it's always free. We just send you a reminder. That's all it is. It's just nice and easy. And then if we can go on to what's coming up in the next few weeks, Callum, we've got an onboarding today in the USA and Canada group. We got Back to Life with Sasha. Then we got a Metaverse Masterclass with Josh King. That should be really good because I know they've started doing at EMC 3. They've started doing some Metaverse type events for clients. And then we got an onboarding on the 3rd of March. And then we're going to have our wrap-up show. I think we might actually do it live from Convex, which is going to be on the 7th of March, sorry. We might do that on Setup Day live from Convex, so that should be good. Once again, if I could quickly show the show-up slide before we go. Thanks, Callum. Just trying to catch him out. No, can we go back to the other one? No, I'm only kidding. Guys, just a quick reminder. Show up. Diane has put the links in the chat. Please sign up for these. Come and see us. We have got a, as usual, cocktail bar at each of them on our stand, and we've got some amazing stand partners as well. So please try and show up, guys.
Cool.
And I think that's about it, Dom.
I think it might well be.
Looking forward to next week.
Absolutely. It'd be nice to see Sasha. I haven't seen, well, I can't remember when Sasha was last on. It was a couple of series ago, I think, or sometime last series. Not seen her, but she's always great. She's always got incredible slides. There's always a ton of content out of those sessions. So join us next Tuesday, 1:30 with Sasha Fries, talking about going back to live. Yeah,
bring your notepads as well, because loads of notes, always.
Absolutely.
So guys, a big quick thank you as well to Events Case, to the guys from Stream, to Richard once again for doing such a brilliant job, for you guys for watching, for Melia as well, Melia Hotels International and Inside by Melia for sponsoring this season. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.